Virtuoso, this is the series of equipment that we sell. So whether it be our printers or actually our software, our new age system is called Virtuoso, which actually has more components to it than just printers. So let's look at exactly what Virtuoso is, and then we'll focus in on the printers that are part of the Virtuoso line. So Virtuoso is a fully integrated HD product decorating system that we developed here at Sawgrass. And it contains printers. We have 3 different inkjet printers. It also has a specialized ink, our Sublimation HD ink, for these specific printers. And then finally, it has a software component, actually 2 software components. One is Creative Studio, which is an online designer, and the other is our Virtuoso Print Manager, which is a print manager system. Okay, if you're using Creative Studio, then you're printing through Virtuoso Print Manager, which we call VPM, and we will be doing a specific webinar on VPM and everything about how it works coming up over the next couple of weeks. Now, if you choose not to use a Creative Studio, that's fine. You're using standard graphics software. You would still use the VPM software for printing, but you just wouldn't use the Creative Studio graphics aspect of it. And by the way, that comes at no charge when you buy the Virtuoso system. So the Virtuoso, the first 2 printers I want to show you are the SG400 and SG800, which are desktop printers. They're very much identical in many ways, but the 800 is larger than the 400, and there's a couple of minor differences between the 2. First of all, they are the only desktop printers built for digital decorating. Up until now at Sawgrass, we were producing inks for specific printers that were like business printers. And they were never made for digital decorating. They were just made for printing, typically on standard paper. So we would adapt our inks to those printers, and we were very limited in which printers we could work with. So it was limited for what you had as choices. And it wasn't always the most ideal solution, but it worked really well. If you look at our Rico series that we've been supporting and still support today, those have been excellent printers that we've done well with matching our inks up to. But we wanted to do something a little different this time around. So we actually partnered with Rico, who was producing printers independently, and now they're producing for us the SG400 and SG800. So they tailored their printers specifically for sublimation, and we were able to engineer our inks specific to those printers. So working hand in hand, we have an integral system, and thus we've ended up with the only desktop printers built for digital decorating. You can get up to 1200 by 1200 DPI, which is excellent for getting high-def photo quality reproductions. We're seeing faster throughput, which means we can print faster with the SG400 and SG800 than we did with the previous generation of Ricos. We also have the VJ628. Now the VJ628 is an industrial grade roll feed printer. The desktop printers feed separate sheets of paper through. But if you're looking for something at a higher level, industrial grade, then we have the VJ628. We're going to talk about that one as well. Okay, it's got a lot of cool things like 8-color printing, whereas the traditional printers are 4-color, and that gives you a lot of different options, okay, as well as the larger print area. So we're going to cover all that because the key is finding what works for you to enable you to print what you need to make money with your business. And that's the most important aspect. I know that most people, the most important aspect is the price, and I don't disagree on that. But what I'm here to tell you is if you're starting a business and you need to be able to generate revenue, then you need to buy the equipment that will enable you to do the products that are required for you to be profitable. And sometimes if you shop only on price, you may end up with a printer that doesn't have the features that you really need to take your business where you need to go. And that's why I say put aside for now price and just focus on what these printers can do, and then you start thinking about what you need to be able to do today as well as where you may go within 6 months, a year, or 2 years, so that you can hopefully get the right printer that will carry you through an extended period of time, okay, producing what you need. Okay, the Sublimation inks, the Sublimation HD inks are manufactured for the Virtuoso printers. And if you take a look at the two images on the screen, and certainly when we're doing webinars, the quality of images don't always come through as well as they should. The one on the left is our Sublimation R, which was our last generation of ink, and that's what the Ricoh printers are using today. The current generation, which is the Virtuoso printers, is using Sublimation HD. The colors are brighter from the Sublimation HD than they were for the Sublimation R. So there is a difference, okay? There is a difference. So, and each new generation of ink, we're always trying to improve over the last generation. In addition to getting these nice colors, we're able to generate a higher yield. And if you can have a higher yield, that means you're using basically less ink per application. It's going to come up or lead to lower imaging costs, okay? We've expanded the gamut. The gamut's the range of color that an ink or a system can work with. And we've been able to extend the gamut, which gives us more vibrant and more accurate colors with this particular ink set, which you will find in your Virtuoso printers. Now, I mentioned the Creative Studio, and we will be doing a full session on Creative Studio as part of our series. But I'm just introducing you to it because the whole Virtuoso package includes all three components, and then it's up to you as to whether you're going to use the Creative Studio for your graphics or not. Some of you may be using Photoshop and Corel and you're quite comfortable with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you choose to use Creative Studio, which automatically does come at no charge with your printer, your Virtuoso printer, then what you're going to get is you're going to get a design system that allows you to easily put together different components to be able to fabricate the images you need for sublimation. And among other things, it includes a stock design library, it includes art templates, it includes product templates. So it has a lot of different features in there. As well, it also ties in with our virtual print manager, which is our color management and printer driver, so that you're getting the highest quality of printing. And these things are important when you're talking about digital printing, is having proper color management and printer drivers to make sure that you're delivering your images the right way through your printer. And you can find out more about Creative Studio online at the Sawgrass website. In fact, you can go to sawgrassinc.com/creative studio demo. sawgrassinc.com/creative studio demo. And there you can sign up for a free online demo version of Creative Studio. And it'll do everything that Creative Studio will except print, because if you don't have a Virtuoso printer, you can't print it. All right, but that's certainly a way to kind of get familiar with the product. You can find that on our website. Okay, let's look specifically at the SG400 printer. The SG400 printer is the smallest of the three. Now, as I mentioned earlier, all the SG printers, all of them, are engineered as a joint effort between Ricoh and Sawgrass. And we took great features out of the existing Ricoh, like auto maintenance, and included those in this new age of printers. Auto maintenance means that if you leave it plugged in, turned on, that your system will automatically maintain itself so that the ink doesn't dry out in the heads. Okay, that's an important feature. But then there's other things that go on behind the scenes that you don't really see, but these are things that have a big effect on the imaging that comes out of your system. And that has to do with head jetting pressures and advanced algorithms, all this kind of great stuff that you have no clue how it works. Okay, that's all behind the scenes, but the reality is what comes out is of top quality. That's the key, okay? And so that's what you need to know is going on behind the scenes when you're actually buying the printer. I mean, just keep in mind that if you're buying any of the Virtuoso printers, you're buying a printer that was engineered from the ground up for sublimation, okay? And any of the other printers out there are pretty much off-the-shelf printers using sublimation ink. There is a difference, okay? There is a difference in how things operate. Okay, so if we take a look, since the Ricohs have been on the market for a long time, and there's a lot of users, so they're pretty well known, and some of you may actually be Ricoh users looking to buy into a new printer. But typically, if you look at Virtuoso versus Ricoh, The first thing is that there's 25% more colors that are being delivered out of the Virtuoso than out of the Rico. And if you look at Rico, the best you could get was 600 by 600 DPI and 547,000 colors. If you're looking at the Sawgrass Virtuoso printers, SG, okay, Virtuoso printers and SG printers are the same thing, okay? So I just want to be clear on that because you see both those words going. The SG printers at 600 by 600 get 646,000 colors, but if you actually set it for a higher mode of printing, you can get 1200 by 1200 DPI and about 687,000 colors. So you're actually getting a lot more colors out. And that may not seem significant, but it really is, because when you're trying to color match and making sure you're printing colors right out of logos, if you're doing photography, it's very important of getting, you know, skin tones, etc. So having the higher range of color gives you more accuracy in what you're printing. We're also seeing better blues and reds, you know, with our HD ink out of our SG printers. And remember, it's not just the ink. It's a combination of the ink and the printer working together. In addition, reduced wear on heads and more environmentally friendly. And as I mentioned earlier, we're getting more efficient ink yield. With the SG 400, we're getting about 11% improvement in ink yield per cartridge. Not huge, but a little bit. Okay, it's a little bit of performance enhancement. Now here's the big thing. Here's the thing. Of all these slides that I'm covering, this is the one I really want you to focus on. You'll see the same version for each of the printers. Okay, in this particular one, size matters, and that's what I'm showing you here. SG400 has a media size of 8.5 by 14. That means that's the largest sheet of paper that can go through it, single sheet of paper. Unless you had the bypass tray, you could get a little bit longer paper, right? Okay, you cannot print to the edges of the paper, so you could not do an image that was 8.5 by 14. Using it to maybe within ½ inch, so 7.5 by 13 would probably be the largest solid image you could do if you needed to do that. So many times, though, we're printing multiple pieces of smaller images. So in this case, I put some cell phone covers. I got 6 on that sheet of paper. And with the coasters, I got 6. But here's where it really holds you back. Look at the apparel. The apparel, you have a very small area in the middle of the chest, okay? And that particular small area is not suitable for a lot of what people want, okay? Works fine for children's wear. In fact, children's wear would be a large area. But on an adult, you know, an 8.5 by 14 sheet of paper with maximum coverage of 7.5 by 13 really limits what you can do. So there are a lot of important things. If you've been tuning in on our series of how to start a sublimation business, we have talked about things like signage and banners and large area products. Okay, they're very, very popular out there in the marketplace. So if you limit yourself, and with say 8.5 by 14, which is the SG400, then that's the most you're ever going to get out of that printer. Okay, I mean, you're just not going to be able to do those bigger things. Now, you may have figured out that you'll never, ever, ever, never need to do anything big or high volume. That's fine. And the SG400, nothing wrong with the printer, but I want you to think about is it the right size for what I need to do today and tomorrow? See, the thing is, a lot of you are starting out and you're saying, you know what, I'm just going to be doing this small stuff. You know, I'm going to do a whole lot of name badges and whatever. That's great. But those same people buying name badges, you could probably sell them signage and apparel. But you couldn't necessarily produce it with this printer. That's the part I really want you to take with you, okay? Now keep in mind that we do not sell direct. You buy through our resellers. You know, the final price that you would pay from a reseller would be however the reseller packaged the stuff together. A lot of them put together the printer and the inks and papers and some blanks and everything in your startup package. So you may see some varying prices between the different resellers. So just make sure you understand what they've included in there, which may affect their particular price. So I don't really quote price much on webinars because I don't want you to go to a sublimation dealer and say, well, I heard on a webinar that's X dollars and your price is different. Okay, so the reality is I don't mind giving you price ranges, but really you meet with the dealers that you're interested in and look at the package, and then you figure out, you know, what it's going to cost you from there. Okay, the SG800 is also based on the proven Rico platform. So just like with the 400, okay, we engineered it as a joint effort with Rico. We have the auto maintenance, and we have all that good stuff going on behind the scenes. Okay, so, you know, the SG800, again, main thing to understand is it was engineered to be able to do sublimation. okay, which really sets it apart from so many other printers out there. Okay, if we look at the SG800 versus the previous generation of Ricoh printers, again, 25% more colors. We're getting about 547,000 out of the older Ricohs, whereas we're getting 646,000 out of the newer SG printers at 600 by 600 printing. If you do 1200 by 1200, 687,000. So, just a lot of advances there, and of course better blues and reds, and it's reduced wear on heads, just like with a 400. Okay, these basic concepts here are the same between the two printers. All right, where it starts to change is when we talk about ink yield. Okay, the SG800 is getting 24% more ink yield versus the Ricoh 7100 that it replaces. So we definitely see a lot more efficiency with the 800 versus the previous generation of printers. This is the graphic that is so important to me, okay? And trust me, I'm not trying to steer anybody to the SG800. I'm just a big believer the 800 is probably the most versatile one out there for anybody that wants to do sublimation, okay? So that's just me sharing my opinion. You buy what's right for you, okay? All right, if you're doing a maximum media size 11 by 17, you can produce multiple prints on one page. You can see here that I now have, for example, just as a reference, 12 cell phone covers where I was doing 6 max on a sheet with the SG400, or 12 coasters. But here's the big one, and that is that t-shirt. We're getting a lot more area coverage, and the area coverage is very important because the SG800 is larger. So it can do a lot larger area. It can't do the whole shirt, but you can do really large imaging, which is what's really popular with shirts, okay? It really is. Socks, full bleed socks or full cover socks, very popular. You would think a sock is small. It's not when you actually go and stretch it out, and it's one of those that goes up over the calf, athletic socks. You wouldn't be able to do those very well with the SG400. Well, probably not at all, but you could with the SG800. Okay, a lot of the larger signage and banners, and there's just so many different products out there where the size really can make a difference. So anyway, that's the thing I want you to take with you. All right, now let's look at the VJ628, and this is the third printer in the Virtuoso series. Now the VJ628 is probably not the right startup printer for a lot of you. Could be for some of you, depending on what you want to do. There's a lot of differences in the VJ628 versus the SG400 and SG800. The VJ628 is an 8 color. The other two were 4 color. They had cyan, magenta, yellow, and black as their 4 base colors. You can't switch those out with different colors. You always use those same base colors to create color using software to blend the different base inks together. But when you look at the VJ628, it's actually got 8 base colors. 4 of those are cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and you don't touch those. They're always those 4 colors. But the other 4 can vary depending on what you need to do. And we'll talk more about the ink sets here in just a minute. This one is a 25-inch printing solution. Basically what it can do is it can print a true width of 24 inches. Now there's a lot of 24-inch printers out there that cannot print to the edges. This one actually was designed slightly larger, and if you put in 24-inch paper, you're able to print 24-inch wide images, okay? And that's a magic number for certain applications. That's why it's important. You see it there on a stand. It actually can be placed on a desktop or tabletop if you don't want to use the stand. But it does have a stand option. It is a roll feed paper. It's not individual sheets. It feeds to on a roll, and it has a built-in cutter, so you can automatically cut the paper wherever you need to. Okay. Now, one of the cool things on this is, again, behind the scenes, and that is this is actually manufactured by a company called Muto. Muto has been around for many years, and they built this printer for sublimation in conjunction with Sawgrass's engineering staff. So again, this is designed specifically for sublimation rather than us just popping sublimation ink into an existing printer. So they put together something that it's a patented process called intelligent interweaving. And it's really cool, and you can see it if you're actually watching it print. You can kind of see it developing. But the way that it's actually printing and kind of interweaving, if you did start having some issues with ink nozzles not printing properly, on a normal printer you'd start seeing maybe banding, which is like vertical lines that you don't want to see, or maybe some areas where there's slight missing ink and whatnot. But because of the way this interweaves the image, you don't see that, and that's really cool. So you could actually be having a mechanical problem or a printing problem and it not even show up in the image itself because of how it's doing the printing. Super, super sharp edges and fine details, and very conservative on how it burns ink. So it's a really cool system, and it's got a lot of very specialized features in there that have to do with things like ink droplet size and shape, and that all has to do with how accurate your image is going to look, okay, and how sharp the details are. So as I said, a lot of that's behind the scenes, and you don't worry as much about it, okay? This does have a proven print head. Variable dot size allows for faster printing, and there's a whole lot that goes into making print heads and getting the right dot size, okay? So that really has a big impact, though you don't really see it, okay? Photo quality resolution, you can get up to 1440 by 1440 if you're using a RIP. If you're using our power driver system, 720 by 1440. 7.5 cubic feet of space it takes up, and it has a take-up reel if you want that, okay? There, you can see that in that picture. So there's a printer, it's on the stand, has a take-up reel if you need that. And then people that are printing long runs, you have your roll feeding through, and then it's rolling up down below if you want that. I mean, that's your option. You don't have to have that if you don't want it. This particular printer can do up to about 548,000 colors. Very, very rich blacks and neutral grays, and rich blacks are very important in digital printing. You would think black is black, but really getting a good quality black is harder than it may sound, and this system does a fantastic job of it. Now, here's some of the different ink sets. That's one of the neat things about this printer is that we have different ink sets available. A dual CMYK, very basic. Those 8 colors, you got CMYK twice. So what that would do is it would give you a faster throughput for, standard everyday printing if you went that direction. But most people go with one of the more specialized photo sets like our Pro Photo, which has enhanced skin tones and deep blacks, or our Pro Photo XF, which has some degree of UV resistance, okay, so that everything, retains its color even when you're inside a room that has fairly bright lighting in it, okay? So it tends to last much longer than the same image printed on true photo paper versus being sublimated onto products, okay? But one of the coolest ones is our fluorescent. What we've done is we've actually combined our fluorescent and our expanded gamut inks together, and we call that Flex. And with the Flex, we have 4 colors of CMYK, and then you have 4 other specialized colors. 2 of them are fluorescents, fluorescent yellow, fluorescent pink, and the other 2 is a special orange and a special blue. And you can combine those just by how you set up images using software to create a range of fluorescents, for example. So fluorescents have gotten a lot of attention, and we do have the ink sets for that. I mean, we traditionally are an ink manufacturer, so we do make specialized ink sets where needed for our printers. So let's talk about printing with Virtuoso. I keep mentioning the Virtuoso Print Manager. Well, here it is. The Virtuoso Print Manager, it comes at no charge with any of our 3 printers, and it allows you to do a lot of things. You can run multiple printers at the same time. You can print directly from Corel or Adobe. You can use hot folders, and you'll learn about all this when you tune in to the Virtuoso Print Manager webinar. But you can use hot folders to set up basically recipes or settings for images as they go through the system. You can gang things together, which is a really cool way to be very efficient with your paper usage and your printing. And you have some advanced color control features. So there's a lot of things that go on with it. It's a really cool system. Again, available at no charge, works with PC, works with Mac, as well as PC, okay? All right, so the last couple of slides here, I want to show you just real quick. If you're working with Creative Studio is, our graphics program we make available to you at no charge when you buy one of the printers. It's actually a cloud-based program. So you're actually creating the cloud, and then it sends the image down to your Virtuoso Print Manager and then over to the printer. If you're working with Corel and Photoshop and Adobe and Illustrator, etc., typically these are on your system, even though they're all going to cloud-based now too, where you can be working with these and working through the Virtuoso Print Manager and send it to the same printer. Okay, so the Virtuoso Print Manager allows you to work with traditional graphics programs and the Creative Studio, even though Creative Studio itself does not interact with these graphics programs, but they all feed the same printer driver. Yeah, that's for PC. What's it look like on Mac? Exactly the same. But yes, exactly the same on the Mac system. Is you're working with cloud-based creativity down through Virtuoso Print Manager to the printer, and then the same thing here as well. Okay, so the VPM works with all of our printers. That's it. You can learn more about the printers on the Sawgrass website. All of our printers, all the stats, everything are on the Sawgrass website where you can find them. So you can certainly check that out. If you have questions for me, now's a great time to ask them, or you can always follow up with my email address that you see there. Be sure to check out the full range of resources available on the Sawgrass website to help you get your new business started.